We're here today to honor Mom, to me, and Grandma, great-grandma, friend, to many others. And unfortunately, the guest of honor is not here physically today, but I know for a fact that she's here. There is no doubt.
Here, here.
There is no doubt. A couple things about Mom that I want to start off with is that whenever we would go to her house and we were going to go out to dinner, we were going to go somewhere, she would always look at me and say, "Jimmy, you're not going to go out to dinner with that shirt." Or, "You're going to wear long pants to dinner, aren't you?" And I would say to her, "Mother, I've met that 102-year-old lady at your restaurant 8 times, and she will never remember me. So no, I'm not going to change." And today I know she's looking up saying, "Jimmy, I can't believe you're doing the presentation and your shirt's not done."
And you're in shorts.
And I know on January 24th, I was thinking about this the other day, when she went up to St. Peter, because there's no doubt she was going to heaven, that St. Peter came to the pearly gates wearing his gracious flowing white gown, and I'm sure that there was a couple wrinkles in them. And I know exactly what Mom said. "St. Peter, you're not taking me to heaven in an unironed gown." So that's how she rolled. But Mom was born, Tracy just gave me this, so I'm going to have to read it. February 17th, 1928. She had a brother, Chuck, who just passed away, what, 2 months ago?
Yeah.
And sister Sherry, who died, Greg, how long ago?
About 2 years.
2 years ago. And they're all 3 gone now. Sort of legendary people. Mom moved to LA at age 7, and it's an interesting story of why she moved from Baltimore to Los Angeles. In 1935, there was a contest for the handsomest man in the United States, and her dad, Grandpa Chuck, who was probably the most what would you call it? Charismatic person you've ever met. When he entered the room lit up. He was unbelievable. Anyways, one of Grandpa's brothers said to Chuck, it was Grandpa Chuck, she said, "Chuck, you should enter this contest for the handsomest man in the United States. $10,000 prize, and you get a couple bit parts in Hollywood." So Grandpa enters this contest and wins. And he was, if you saw him, he was a striking, handsome gentleman. And so he wins. They move out to LA, and that's how the family moved to LA. True story. So Mom goes, is raised in Venice, I believe.
Yes.
Moved to Hollywood for high school, graduated from Hollywood High. Met Dad. Dad was in the service. They met at LA City College. Got married February 5th, 1950. And the rest is history. 6 kids, lost one at birth. And one of the stories about Mom was going back to her 50th high school reunion, and she was so excited she was going to see all of her friends, and they were going to talk about high school and kids, and all they wanted to talk about was that she was the captain of the basketball team. Imagine that. So Mom was obviously a great mother, raised some pretty good kids, and was very loving. She was always there for all of us. And what did you take? I'll remember a couple good stories.
I'll tell just a little story, if you don't mind, Jim, and then the
Go ahead.
reflection turn back. So, back when I was a teenager, I was watching an NFL game with my mom. It
Was
wasn't
this
going
before
anywhere.
you built the house?
No, that was. And my mom said, "No, Brian, why do they run it right in the middle of the pack? You know, why don't they run around or throw it over the top of their head?" And I was at the age where, you know, you kind of know it all and your parents don't know anything. And I said, "Well, Mom, it's a set play, and, you know, they're setting it up, everyone does it right, it's going to work, and, you know, you really shouldn't second guess the coach." And I was kind of a jerk, so Mom kind of said, "Okay." So fast forward, and Ann and I are married, and we're watching a football game. And Ann said, "Why do they run it? Why don't they do the hot potato play? Why don't they do that more often?" And so I kind of learned my lesson. And I said, "Well, you know, if you run it in there, you'll kind of set it up for the other one, and, you know, maybe you wear them down or what." And Ann goes, "Yeah, I don't think you know what you're talking about." Fast forward, about 5 years later, I'm watching football with Brianna and Brittany and Jim Paul and Aaron Horn. And Brianna says to me, "You know, Dad, why not?" I said, "Stop." Let me tell you 3 things I know. 1, it never works when they run it right in the middle of it. Number 2, they should throw it over the top, run around. And 3, the hot potato play works, and I wish they would do it.
And Mom was right.
Yeah. Now, the reason I tell that story is, I think we all go through kind of an evolution where you look back and go, you know, my parents were a lot smarter than what I ever thought. And you kind of find yourself kind of drawing upon the things that they said. And then when you get to be my age, you actually start repeating, you know, some of the things that they said to your kids. And my mom, our mom, she really had a lot of wisdom. She was a very, very smart woman. And I always kind of attribute it to a couple things. 1, I think it was her upbringing, her mom and dad, her siblings. 2, her life experiences. She grew up with a depression, went through the world wars, the polio scare, Vietnam. I think that shaped her. And I think the 3rd thing was she had a tremendous faith. And I think people who have a tremendous faith, you know, they kind of have a reassuring presence. They believe things are going to work out in the end. They seem to be more positive. And I think, you know, those 3 items, I think, really created a very, very special woman. And I miss her a lot, Jen. Thank you for giving me a couple minutes.
One of the things,
Thank you.
thanks for listening. One of the things that Mom did that was, as a mother, that was, I learned so much, is she had a connection to everybody in this room that knew her. And she was always, she like Jim, Aaron, and she was connected, and she was always interested in everybody, always wanted to know how everybody was doing, Colleen, everybody. And that's how she was. She loved everybody, and everybody had a special connection to her. So, with that, I do want to tell one story as a parent, that one of the best lessons I learned from her. Going to high school, I went to Notre Dame, a lot of affluent kids there, and we weren't affluent. And all these kids from Encino, when school was out, you know, it was, you know, go to the beach every day. And Mom, I remember we into school on a Thursday, I get up Friday morning, she gets the keys out, and she goes, "Here's the keys in the car. Go get a job and don't come home to me." So, it wasn't, "I'm going to find a job for you," or "you only have to work 1 day a week." Because you get your butt out there and you work to support yourself. And it was one of the best lessons that I ever learned. Of course, you know, sometimes we don't repeat all those as parents, but we do our best. So, if anybody has a short story they want to share, and then Brian will do a video presentation, and then we can let the party begin.
Oh, night.
I'll just get right here. That's the question.
I'm so grateful for the time that I spent with my mom. I'm especially grateful for all the travel we did together. That was a special thing we did. Our most favorite thing to do, Jim, was to jump on the train and come down to see you in San Diego. We did that a lot.
And then I'd have to go with Mom, and they would say, boy, you have a gorgeous wife. And she got the biggest kick out of it.
The other thing that we did a lot together, she was my movie partner, and we saw a lot of movies together. Our favorite time to go to the movies was Christmas morning, when everybody else was home opening presents. Mom and I would be at the movie theater at 9 o'clock in the morning. But the thing I'm most grateful for is when we were young, Mom and Dad took bridge lessons, and they came home desperate to play bridge. And so they made Daryl, Jim, and I play with them. And so we played on the beach with the wind going, and I continued to play bridge throughout my career. I played it at my tennis club. Mom would come down, and Mom, I'm so grateful that you taught me how to play bridge. I'm so grateful for all the memories we shared together. She was a very special woman, and I loved her very much.
Before I forgot, thank you all for being here. It's very special to me.
Thank you for having me,
Yeah.
including us.
You know what I would like to share is, we didn't have a lot of money. We sewed our own clothes during the summer, and it was, it wasn't easy, but somehow Mom saved money every year for us to get a week's vacation. We were in Yosemite, Sacramento,
Balboa Island.
somehow, I don't know how she did it, but she saved enough money. So, we have such wonderful memories of our week's vacation. That's true.
Tracy.
Okay,
George.
Laina wants me to do mine.
It's so
You
special.
can't read from it, you gotta do it from the heart.
I know you understand what, I have to go up front? Okay, Tracy, jeez. All right. Now you're gonna expect something great. So, when Grandma Florence passed away, at the service, see if I can get through this. Mom went up and she talked about all of her 12 grandchildren. And I didn't even know Mom could speak in front of people, much less that. And I always admired her for that. And I always said, if Mom passed away, I wanted to do that for our grandkids. So I practice with Jimmy. There's 12 grandkids. I practice with Chris. Last night I got the presentation down to about 2 hours. And so I want to go through, and there might be tears. And Laina's familiar with what I want to say.
I may have to pitch it.
She might have to help. But the first thing I want to say about Mom is that, and I think everybody knows, Mom was really artistic. She could do anything, and she was great at everything she did. And we have Brittany. And Brittany is really artistic. I remember when she was very young, she made her own quilt. And she made the quilt. And we were all so impressed that she made a quilt. And today she's a graphic designer, and I'm really proud of her. Very good. And then she was really philanthropic. Many of you know she was president of the PTA, she was in Tarzana Angels, she did all this stuff. And then we have Kimmy. Where's Kimmy? She left. Oh, there's Kimmy. And Kimmy, since she graduated from college, has been involved with the Boys and Girls Club. So, the other one, Mom was very maternal, as we talked about, with the 6 kids and always being there for us and everything. And so, much to my surprise, Erin has turned into the most maternal mom, and it's so impressive. So I just wanted to say and so then we have Mom was really determined. And sometimes it wasn't so fun because she was really determined for us and wanted us to she wanted us to do. But I think of Jim. Brad, not that you were pushing, but just that he had the wherewithal to go to college and to become an attorney, and he's now practicing law in New York. And here's another one. Mom was really fun. Everybody had fun with Mom all the time. And so I think Mary is a blast. And as Jimmy pointed out, Mom was captain of the basketball team, and she was the tetherball champion, and she's a great athlete. And so we have Dylan. Where's Dylan? And we have Dylan, and he and he gets through, and he's coming back. No matter what, he keeps coming back. Oh, yeah, she's always on my dance. And then Mom always had a lot of initiative, and she always was doing stuff and taking care of this and getting people to do that. And so I think that Tyler has done an amazing job with his job and doing such good work and always wanting a new job and always wanting to learn more. And then we have another thing. Mom was a traveler. Everybody knows that she's a great traveler. And so we have Brianna. Where's Brianna? Brianna's a Jew. Yeah. Is she here? She's over here. Okay. Lived in Cambodia, loves to travel, and I see Mom and her. And finally, Mom was very well loved. And you can tell by all the people here today. And it's always wonderful. Everybody always tells us how great our Mom was. And so we always appreciated that. And like I said, I'm so grateful everybody's here. And so one of the kids, can't remember his name, is always very well loved, and that's Paul. So I know it took a little bit long, but I wanted to share that with everybody.
George, did you have something to say?
No, Kerry.
Oh, well, let George go then. Go ahead, George. Then Kerry will come out.
I'm not a member of the immediate family, but I appreciate being included. I see Mickey's children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Her legacy is right here in front of us, and it's just enlightening. She's going to continue to live through them. But all of you are missing one point. She was a total babe.
She still got it.
She was
always flirting with the nurses and any male person that came in, any caretaker, she was. Or we'd be at the store. This is my favorite. Kerry, isn't he handsome?
And the guy would be standing right there.
They check her. Kerry, isn't he handsome? Are you married? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, like, what do you say? What do you say to that? Yeah, you're handsome, and I don't know. Well, I've done a few things that my mother has taught me. So just bear with me, grab a drink, I don't know. But I'm gonna read it just because. What else am I gonna read?
You go, girl.
What I've learned from my mother. I learned to never miss an opportunity to teach your children, even in the car. Even in the car, the ABC game, the States and Capital game, reading signs, and who could read it first. That was a big deal, because my dad had really good eyes. Whatever sign was the furthest, it was like, okay, what did it say? What did it say? I would just start making stuff up, just to try and compete, but he had really good vision, so that was always fun.
That's funny.
Oh, and one more thing about Dylan, he's the first in our family to get a 4-year degree. So, yay! I'm really proud as a parent. I learned to be productive while watching television. Because you can't just sit, you gotta be doing something. That was my mom. Don't just sit there. What are you doing right now? How are you keeping busy? I learned it took a week to pack for a trip, no matter how long the trip was. I learned that a polyester mixed suit doesn't wrinkle, and it's a great outfit to wear on a plane. Not that I ever did. I learned how to iron. I learned not to wear white in winter, but I was a rebel and I did it anyway. I learned that your clothes should match, and you always knew. I learned that your clothes should match, and that you always knew what was all the rage. Yeah, she was big into fashion. Wow. I learned to never look back. I learned to never give up. I learned to be fair even though life isn't. I learned how to plan for dinner in the morning. That meant taking something out of the freezer to defrost it. Okay. I got it. I learned to decorate. I learned to use doilies. I learned how to clean with TSP, which none of you probably know, but us kids do. Our baseboards were really clean. I learned the best way to ruin a party is to talk about politics or religion. I learned that you can't leave a chocolate shaving behind on the kitchen counter, or you'll get nailed for eating the frozen C's egg stashed in the freezer outside. She would come in and see it, and she knew, who was in the C's eggs? What are we saving them for? Can we just eat them? I learned how important it is to eat a meal with someone. I learned that fruit cocktail was considered a treat, and I'm still not sure why. I learned it is much easier to accept your circumstances than to complain about them. I told you to get a drink. I learned that a smile can brighten someone's day. I learned to talk to the chuckers at the grocery store and let them know how much they are appreciated, or flirt with them, apparently. I learned to treat everyone with respect. I learned how good it feels to give. I learned how to read a map. I learned to appreciate old movies. I learned to appreciate tap dancing. I learned to enjoy the sentimental value. I learned the Twinkies in the freezer were all accounted for. I learned to never arrive empty-handed. I learned how to play cards. I learned to be competitive. And if you don't win the first game, play the best out of 3.
Or cheat. She was a first-class cheater. She was gonna win.
So competitive. I learned to root for the underdog. I learned to clean under my bed before company came over, although I still don't know why.
And clean under my bed.
Yes. Fabulous. Thanks, Mom. People are coming over. Oh, gosh. I learned to welcome the new neighbors into the neighborhood and bake them cookies. I learned that if you saute onions and garlic, it makes the house smell really good. I learned that music is a mood changer. I learned to enjoy the dance floor. I learned to listen and appreciate the stories being told at the dinner table. I learned that you can laugh at the same joke or story just as hard, even if you've heard it more than 10 times. I learned to laugh at myself first. I learned that laughter is contagious. I learned to be humble. I learned to look on the bright side. I learned to answer to Trace Bright Care. I learned how to paint. I learned to appreciate art. I learned to never make fun of people. I learned to join committees and try to make a difference. I learned to pay attention to the details. I learned the joy of cooking and entertaining. I learned to wear an apron. I learned to go the extra mile. I learned that kindness has no limits. I learned how to hide my liver and onions in my salad. I didn't put them in my pockets like you did. But, you know, I had a few bowls of water. I learned to do the borders of a puzzle first. I learned to appreciate traveling. You were so excited we were going to Paris and wanted us to take the kids to Italy one day. I hope that happens. I learned that you could freeze anything, just label it and date it. I learned how strong you were and to keep moving forward. I learned that you going back to college at 50 to get your art degree was everything. You never stopped encouraging me to do the same. I learned about the power of prayer and having faith in God. I learned how much you loved your mom and how much you missed her, especially around the holidays. And from today on, I will miss you too.
I love you and I thank you for teaching me all of these things and much more. As you used to say to me, I love you, love you, love you. God bless. Right back at you, Mom. Enjoy your time with your family, your friends, and especially Jesus. With so much love and appreciation for you.
Ryan, are you ready to do the?
Yeah. Can I say something? Sure. I just wanted to, I wanted to thank the family for giving me this task to do this amazing slideshow because I haven't shed more tears in my life, and they were amazing, and I wouldn't take them back for anything. And it was really special to me that I got to do this. And really quickly, I just wanted to talk about something that I heard and I've seen on social media a couple of times, just about the status of this generation and maybe relating that to what Nikki and her life has gone through. And I saw somebody that posted something on social media a few days ago and saying about, imagine the kids and imagine the people born around 1980, 1975 that now have lived through essentially 9/11, have lived through race wars, have lived through COVID, have lived through all this uncertainty that we've gone through in the last 35 years. And I'm thinking, you know what? You know what? My grandmother was born right in the middle of the Great Depression and thrived and grew up and found an amazing husband and had 6 amazing kids after World War II, before Vietnam, in this amazing, challenging time for America, and brought those 6 children up in such an amazing childhood and life, and lived through that, and lived through the Gulf Wars, and lived through the 9/11 tragedy, and has even saw the beginning of COVID and some of the worst times in the world. And so that was me. And so everything that we've seen and everything that we've saw and everything that we've accomplished in our life, think about what she did. Think about her raising 6 kids, born in the Great Depression, after World War I, 30 years after cars were invented, raising 6 amazing children that raised 6 amazing families. And I'm just so glad and I'm so thankful to be able to share this slideshow of her life.
Ryan, we're so grateful to you.
Thank you, Ryan.